Let's get into the first book of Ovid's Metamorphoses. Now that we've gotten through the epistle and the letter to the reader, with the author's profuse disclaimers and distancing himself from all the heathen content therein, condemning the various acts that are depicted in the story, and suggesting that everyone thinks these thoughts and these things are written just to help us, I don't know, what's the word, catharsis, and that anyone who sees something really bad in it is really seeing the badness in their heart, or as my father used to say, you spot it, you got it. Or if you go to middle school, it's he who has smelt it, dealt it. Okay, the first book of Ovid's Metamorphoses, translated into English meter. Transformed to bodies strange, I purpose to entreat. Ye gods vouchsafe, for you are they, wrought this wondrous feat. To further this mine enterprise, and from the world begun, grant that my verse may to my time's course directly run. Before the sea and land were made, and heaven that all doth hide, in all the world one only face of nature did abide, which chaos hight, a huge rude heap, and nothing else but even a heavy lump and clottered clod of seed together driven, of things at strife amongst themselves for want of order due. No sun as yet with lightsome beams the shapeless world did view. No moon in growing did repair her horns with borrowed light, nor yet the earth amidst the air did hang by wondrous sleight, just paced by her proper weight, nor winding in and out did Amphitrite with her arms embrace the earth about. For where was earth, was sea and air, so the earth was unstable, the air all dark, the sea likewise to bear a ship unable. No kind of thing had proper shape, but each confounded other, for in one self-same body strove the hot and cold together, the moist with the dry, the soft with the hard, and the light with things of weight. The strife did God and nature break, and set in order straight, the earth from heaven, the sea from earth, he parted orderly, and from the thick and foggy air he took the lightsome sky, which when he once unfolded had, and severed from the blind and clotted heap, he setting each from other did them bind in endless friendship to agree. The fire most pure and bright, the substance of the heaven itself, because it was so light, did mount aloft. This print is so small, I'm sorry. This is what I get for looking into the camera to see if you're still there. Hi. Ahem. The air all dark, the sea likewise to bear a ship unable. No kind of thing had proper shape, but each confounded other, for in one self-same body strove the hot and cold together, the moist with the dry, the soft with hard, the light with things of weight. This strife did God and nature break, and set in order straight, the earth from heaven, the sea from earth he parted orderly, and from the thick and foggy air he took the lightsome sky, which when he once unfolded had, and severed from the blind and clotted heap, he setting each from other did them bind in endless friendship to agree. The fire most pure and bright, the substance of heaven itself, because it was so light, did mount aloft, and set itself in highest place of all. The second room of right to air from lightness did befall. The earth more gross drew down with it each weighty kind of matter, and set itself in lowest place. Again the waving water did lastly challenge for his place the utmost coast and bound of all the compass of the earth, to close the steadfast ground. Now when he, in this foresaid wise, what God soe'er he was, had broke, and into members put this rude confused mass, then first, because in every part the earth should equal be, he made it like a mighty ball, in compass as we see. And here and there he cast in seas, to whom he gave a law to swell with every blast of wind, and every stormy flaw, and with their waves continually to beat upon the shore of all the earth within their bounds, enclosed by them afore. Moreover, springs and mighty meres and lakes he did augment, and flowing streams of crooked brooks and winding banks he pent, of which the earth doth drink up some, and some with restless race do seek the sea, where finding scope of larger room and space, instead of banks they beat on shores. He did command the plain and champion grounds to stretch out wide, and valleys to remain aye underneath, and eke the woods to hide them decently with tender leaves, and stony hills to lift themselves on high. And as two zones do cut the heaven upon the righter side, and other twain upon the left likewise the same divide, the middle in outrageous heat exceeding all the rest, even so likewise through great foresight to God it seemed best, the earth included in the same should so divided be, as with the number of the heavens her zones might full agree, of which the middle zone is in heat, the utmost twain in cold exceeds so far, that there to dwell no creature dare be bold. Between these two so great extremes 2 other zones are fixed, where temperature of heat and cold indifferently is mixed. Now over this doth hang the air, which as it is more flighty than earth or water, so again that fire it is more weighty. There hath he placed mist and clouds, and for to fear men's minds the thunder and the lightning eke, with cold and blustering winds. But yet the Maker of the world permitteth not alway the winds to use the air at will, for at this present day, though each from other placed be in sundry coasts aside, the violence of their boisterous blasts things scarcely can abide. They so turmoil as though they would the world in pieces rend, so cruel is those brothers' wrath when they that do contend. And therefore to the morning grey, the realm of Nabathee, to Persis and to other lands and countries that doth lie far underneath the morning star, did Eurus take his flight. Likewise the setting of the sun and shutting in of night belonged to Zephyr. And the blasts of blustering Boreas reign in Scythia and in other lands, set under Charles his wain. And unto Auster doth belong the coast of all the south, who beareth shores and rotten mists continual in his mouth. Above all these he set aloft the clear and lightsome sky, without all dregs of earthly filth or grossness utterly. The bounds of things were scarcely yet by him thus pointed out, but that appeared in the heavens stars glistering all about, which in the said confused heap had hidden been before, and to thinted with lively things each region for to store the heavenly soil, to gods and stars and planets first he gave. The waters next, both fresh and salt, he let the fishes have. The subtle air to flickering fowls and birds he hath assigned, the earth to beasts, both wild and tame of sundry heart and kind. Howbeit yet of all this, while the creature wanting was far more divine, of nobler mind, which should the residue pass in depth of knowledge, reason, wit, and high capacity, and which of all the residue should the Lord and ruler be. Then either he that made the world and things in order set of heavenly seed engendered man, or else the earth, as yet young, lusty, freshened in her flowers, and parted from the sky, but late before the seed thereof as yet held inwardly, the which Prometheus, tempering straight with water of the spring, did make in likeness to the gods that govern everything. And where all other beasts behold the ground with groveling eye, he gave to man a stately look, replete with majesty, and willed him to behold the heaven with countenance cast on high, to mark and understand what things were in the starry sky. And thus the earth, which late before had neither shape nor hue, did take the noble shape of man, and was transformed anew. Then sprang up first the golden age, which of itself maintained the truth and right of everything, unforced and unconstrained. There was no fear of punishment, there was no threatening law in brazen tables nailed up to keep the folk in awe. There was no man who would crouch or creep to judge with cap in hand. They lived safe without a judge in every realm and land. The lofty penetree was not hewn from mountains where it stood, in seeking strange and foreign lands to rove upon the flood. Men knew none other countries yet than were themselves did keep. There was no town enclosed yet with walls and ditches deep. No horn nor trumpet was in use, no sword nor helmet worn. The world was such that soldiers' help might easily be forborne. The fertile earth as yet was free, untouched of spade or plough, and it yielded of itself of everything's enow. And men themselves contented well with plain and simple food, that on the earth by nature's gift without their travel stood, did live by raspies, heps, and haws, by cornels, plums, and cherries, by sloes and apples, nuts and pears, and loathsome brambleberries, and by the acorns dropped on the ground from Jove's broad tree in a field. The springtime lasted all the year, and Zephyr, with his mild and gentle blast, did cherish things that grew of own accord. The ground untilled, all kind of fruits did plenteously afford. No muck nor tillage was bestowed on lean and barren land, to make the corn of better head and rancor for to stand. Then streams ran milk, then streams ran wine, and yellow honey flowed from each green tree, whereon the rays of fiery Phoebus glowed. But when that into limbo once Saturnus being thrust, the rule and charge of all the world was under Jove unjust, and that the Silver Age came in, more somewhat base than gold, more precious yet than freckled brass, immediately the old and ancient spring did Jove abridge and make thereof anon 4 seasons, winter, summer, spring, and autumn of anon. Then first of all began the air with fervent heat to swelt. Men gan to shroud themselves in house. Their houses were the thicks and bushy queaches, hollow caves, or hardles made of sticks. Then first of all were furrows drawn, and corn was cast in ground. The simple ox with sorry sighs to heavy yoke was bound. Next after this succeeded straight the third and brazen age, more hard of nature, somewhat bent to cruel roars and rage, but yet not wholly past all grace. Of iron is the last, in no part good and tractable as former ages past. For when that of this wicked age Once opened was the vein, therein all mischief rushed forth. Then faith and truth were fain, and honest shame to hide their heads. For whom stepped stoutly in craft, treason, violence, envy, pride, and wicked lust to win. The shipman hoist his sails to wind, whose names he did not know, and ships that erst in trops of hills and mountains had grow, did leap and dance on uncouth waves, and men began to bound with dowels and ditches, drawn in length the free and fertile ground, which was as common as the air and light of sun before. Not only corn and other fruits for sustenance and for store were now exacted of the earth, but eft they gan to dig, and in the bowels of the ground unsatiably to rig, for riches couched and hidden deep in places near to hell, the spurs and stirrers unto vice, and foes to doing well. Then hurtful iron came abroad, then came forth yellow gold, more hurtful than the iron far. Then came forth battle bold, that fights with both, and shakes his sword in cruel bloody hand. Men live by ravine and by stealth. The wandering guest doth stand in danger of his host, the host in danger of his guest, and fathers of their sons-in-laws. Yea, seldom time doth rest between born brothers, such accord in love as ought to be. The good man seeks the good wife's death, and his again seeks she. The stepdames fail their husbands' sons with poison to assail. To see their fathers live so long, the children do bewail. All godliness lies under foot, and Lady Astrea, last of heavenly virtues from this earth, in slaughter drowned past. And thinketh the earth alone thus should not be oppressed, and heaven above in slothful ease and careless quiet rest. Men say that giants went about the realm of heaven, to win, to place themselves to reign as gods, and lawless lords therein. And hill on hill they heaped up aloft under the sky, till God Almighty from the heaven did let his thunder fly, the dint whereof the airy tops on high Olympus break, and pressed Pelion violently from under Ossa strake. When whelmed in their wicked work, those cursed caitives lay. The earth their mother took their blood yet warm, and, as they say, did give it life. And because some imps should still remain of that same stock, she gave it shape in limbs of men again. This offspring, eke against the gods, did bear a native spite. In slaughter and in doing wrong was all their whole delight. Their deeds declared of them, of blood engendered for to be, the which as soon as Saturn's son from heaven aloft did see, he fetched a sigh, and therewithal revolving in his thought the shameful act which at a feast Lycaon late had wrought. And yet unknown or blown abroad, he gained thereat to storm and stomach like an angry Jove, and therefore, to reform such heinous acts, he summoned straight his court of parliament, whereto resorted all the gods that had their summons sent. High in the welkin is a way apparent to the sight, in starry nights, which of his passing whiteness milky height, it is the street that to the court and princely palace leads, of mighty Jove, whose thunderclaps each living creature dreads. On both the sides of this same way do stand in stately port the sumptuous houses of the Peries. For all the common sort dwell, scattering here and there abroad. The face of all the sky the houses of the chief estates and the princes do supply. And sure, and if I may be bold to speak my fancy free, I take this place of all the heaven, the palace for to be. Now, when the gods assembled were, and each had ta'en his place, Jove, standing up aloft and leaning on his ivory mace, right dreadfully his bushy locks did thrice or four times shake, wherewith he made both sea and land and heaven itself to quake, and afterward, in wrathful words, his angry mind thus brake: I never was in greater care nor more perplexity, how to maintain my sovereign state and princely royalty, when with their 100 hands apiece the adder-footed rout did practice for to conquer heaven, and for to cast us out. For though it were a cruel foe, yet did that war depend upon one ground, and in one stock it had its final end. But now, as far as any sea about the world doth wind, I must destroy both man and beast, and all the mortal kind. I swear, by Styx's hideous streams that run within the ground, all other means must first be sought. But when there can be found no help to heal a festered sore, it must away be cut, least that the parts that are yet sound in danger should be put. We have a number in the world that man's estates surmount, of such whom for their private gods country folks account, as satyrs, fauns, and sundry nymphs, with sylvanies eke beside, that in the woods and hilly grounds continually abide, whom into heaven, since that as yet we vouch not safe to take, and of the honour of this place, co-partners for to make such lands as to inhabit in, we erst to them assigned, that they should still enjoy the same. Is it my will and mind? But can you think that they in rest and safety shall remain, when proud Lycaon lay in wait by secret means, and trained to have confounded me, your lord, who in my hand do bear the dreadful thunder, and of whom even you do stand in fear? The house was moved at his words, and earnestly required the man that had so traitorously against their lord conspired. Even so, when rebels did arise to destroy the Roman name by shedding of our Caesar's blood, the horror of the same did pierce the hearts of all mankind, and made the world to quake, whose fervent zeal in thy behalf, O August, thou didst take, as thankfully as Jove doth hear the loving care of his who, beckoning to them with his hand, forbiddeth them to hiss, and therewithal through all the house attentive silences. As soon as that his majesty all muttering had allayed, he brake the silence once again, and thus unto them said: Let pass this careful thought of yours, for he that did offend hath dearly bought the wicked act, the which he did intend. Yet shall you hear what was his fault and vengeance for the same. A foul report and infamy unto our hearing came of mischief used in those times, which, wishing all untrue, I did descend in shape of man, the infamed earth to view. It were a process overlong to tell you of the sin that did abound in every place whereas I entered in. The brute was lesser than the truth and partial in report. The dreadful dens of Menelaus where savage beasts resort, and Scyllin had I overpassed with all the penetraries high of cold Lycius, and from thence I entered by and by the Hebrolus, and cruel house of the late the Arcadian king, such time as twilight on the earth dim darkness 'gan to bring. I gave a sign that God was come, and straight the common sort devoutly prayed, whereat Lycaon first did make a sport, and after said, by open proof ere long I mind to see if that this white and mighty God of mortal creature be. The truth shall try itself. He meant, the sequel did declare, to steal upon me in the night, and kill me unbeware. And yet he was not so content, but went and cut the throat of one that lay in hostage there, which was an epirote, and part of him he did to roast, and part he did to stew, with which, when it came upon the board, forthwith I overthrew the house with just revenging fire upon the owner's head, who seeing that, slipped out of doors amazed for fear, and fled into the wild and desert woods, where being all alone as he endeavoured, but in vain, to speak and make his moan, he fell a-howling, wherewithal, for very rage and mood, he ran me quite out of his wits, and waxed furious wood, still practising his wonted lust of slaughter on the poor and silly cattle, thirsting still for blood as heretofore. His garments turned to shacky hair, his arms to rugged paws, so as he made a ravening wolf, whose shape expressly draws to that which he was before. His skin is hoary grey, his look still grim with glaring eyes, and every kind of way his cruel heart in outward shape doth well itself bewray. Thus was once house destroyed quite, but that one house alone deserveth not to be destroyed. In all the earth is none, but that such vice doth reign therein. And as that ye would believe that all had sworn and sold themselves to mischief, us to grieve, and therefore, as they all offend, so I am fully bent that all forthwith, as they deserve, shall have due punishment. These words of Jove some of the gods did openly approve, and with their sayings more to wrath his angry courage move, and some did give assent by signs. Yet it did grieve them all, that such destruction utterly on all mankind should fall. Demanding what he purposed with all the earth to do, when that he had all mortal men so clean destroyed, and to unholy altars afterward should offer frankincense, and whether that he were in mind to leave the earth from thence to savage beasts to wast and spoil because of man's offence. The king of gods bade cease their thought and questions in that case, and cast the care thereof on him. Within a little space he promised for to frame anew an other kind of men, by wondrous means, unlike the first, to fill the world again. And now his lightning he had thought on all the earth to throw, but that he feared least the flames perhaps so high should grow as for to set the heavens on fire and burn up all the sky. He did remember, furthermore, how that by destiny a certain time should one day come, wherein both sea and land and heaven itself should feel the forces of Vulcan's scorching brand, so that the huge and goodly work of all the world so wide should go to wreck. For doubt whereof forthwith he laid aside his weapons that the Cyclops made, intending to correct man's trespass by a punishment contrary in effect, and namely with incessant showers from heaven he poured down. He did determine with himself the mortal kind to drown, In Aeolus' prison by and by he fettered Boreas fast, with all such winds as chaffy clouds, or break them with their blast. And set at large the southern wind, who straight with watery wings and dreadful face, as black as pitch, forth out of prison flings, his beard hung full of hideous storms. All dankish was his head, with water streaming down his hair, that on his shoulders shed, his ugly forehead, wrinkled, was with fog mists full thick, and on his feathers and his breasts a stilling dew did stick, as soon as he between his hands the hanging clouds had crushed. With rattling noise adown from heaven the rain fell sadly gushed. The rainbow, Juno's messenger, bedecked in sundry hue to maintain moisture in the clouds. Great waters thither drew, the corn was beaten to the ground. The tillman's hope of grain, for which he toiled all the year, lay drowned in the rain. Jove's indignation and his wrath began to grow so hot that for to quench the rage thereof his heaven sufficed not. His brother Neptune with his waves was fain to do him ease, who straight assembling all the streams that fall into the seas, said to them standing in his house, Sirs, get your home apace. You must not look to have me use long preaching in this case. Pour out your force, for so is need, your heads each one unpenned, and from your open springs your streams with flowing water send. He had no sooner said the word, but that returning back, each one of them unloosed his spring and let his waters slack. And to the sea with flowing streams, ye swoln above their banks, one rolling in another's neck, they rushed forth by ranks. Himself with his three-kneed mace did lend the earth a blow, that made it shake and open ways for waters forth to flow. The flowers at random, where they list, through all the fields did stray, men, beasts, trees, corn, and with their gods were churches washed away. If any house were built so strong against their force to stand, yet did the water hide the top, and turrets in that pond were overwhelmed. No difference was between the sea and ground, for all was sea. There was no shore nor landing to be found. Some climbed up on tops of hills, and some go round to and fro in boats, where they not long before to plough and cart did go. One over corn and tops of towns, whom waves did overwhelm, doth sail in ship, and others sits a-fishing in an elm, in meadows green where anchors cast, so fortune did provide. And crooked ships did shadow vines, the which the flood did hide, and where but t'other day before did feed the hungry goat. The ugly seals and porpoises now to and fro did float. The sea nymphs wandered under waves the town's groves to see, and dolphins played among tops and boughs of every tree. The grim and greedy wolf did swim among the seely sheep, the lion and tiger fierce were borne upon the deep. It booted not the foaming boar his crooked tusks to wet, the running hart could in the stream by swiftness nothing get. The fleeting fowls, long having sought for land to rest upon, and to the sea, were with weary wings were driven to fall anon. The outrageous swelling of the sea the lesser hillocks drowned. Unwonted waves on highest tops of mountains did rebound. The greatest part of men were drowned, as such escaped the flood forlorn with fasting, overlong did die for want of food. Against the fields of Aeone and Attique lies a hand that Phocis hight, a fertile ground, while that it was a land, but at that time a part of sea, and Devian a champion field of sodden waters, which the flound by forced rage did yield. Whereas a hill with forked top, the which Parnassus' height doth pierce the clouds, and to the stars doth raise his head upright, when at his hill, for yet the sea had whelmed all beside, Deucalion and his bedfellow, without all other guide, arrived in a little bark. Immediately they went, and to the nymphs of Corsus with full devout intent did honor do, and to the gods to whom that famous hill was sacred, and to Themis eke, in whose most holy will consisted then the oracles. In all the world so round a better nor more righteous man could never be found than was Deucalion, nor again a woman maid nor wife that feared God so much as she, nor led so good a life. Let's leave it there for tonight. Thank you. We're going to continue tomorrow. Thank you for letting me read to you. Please check the description for where to buy my art and my channel play page for where to send me a one-time donation. Salome is coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. Salome, a pseudo animation based on Oscar Wilde's Salome. All new art, all new music. It's coming. Look out for it. And subscribe if you haven't. Okay, see you later. See you tomorrow.